Folks, get your coffee ready. Episode 43 starts in 30 seconds. What's up, everybody? Listen, this episode is brought to you by Mike G Productions. If you are in the film industry, if you are a filmmaker or whatever project it is that you're doing and you need help, you want to make it bigger and better, hit up my boy Mike G. Okay, Michael W. Green. He will hook you up and he will make your project better. As a matter of fact, he's a filmmaker himself. I had him on the show a few episodes ago, episode 34. Check that out. Okay, he's a genius filmmaker, and he has a few projects coming up that's coming out that he's working on this year. He has a again, genius, great filmmaker. But if you have a project yourself and you need help, hit him up. All his information is going to be on the description below. My guest today is David Bartley, David Woods Bartley. He's gonna talk about his incredible life journey. Those that know me, those that have you been listening to me for a while, if you know me, or if you watch my other YouTube channel, you know mental illness, mental wellness, anything that's to do with mental sickness is near and dear to my heart for multiple reasons. And we're gonna talk to him about his incredible journey. David, what's going on, man?
What's up, my brother? Oh my gosh, what an honor to be here. Thank you so much, and thank you for what you do. Yeah. Thank you. It's just, I feel like you've invited me into your house.
And man, honestly, the pleasure is mine, and I've seen what you've done. And I'm dying to dive in and hear what you have to say. I didn't get to hear. I did get to watch. I was gonna watch it. I saw when you posted on your Facebook that the last interview you did with somebody was very emotional. So I'm a crier.
That's good, brother, because so am I.
I'm a crier. So prepare. I don't know if you're going to make me cry now. I'm not saying you are, but again, this is a subject and a topic near and dear to my heart. Anybody who knows me knows it is. And I mentioned, as a matter of fact, I've had a couple episodes dedicated to that. And in my other, I have two YouTube channels. My other YouTube channel, the Christian Bald Guy, I talk about mental illness and depression, anxiety, all that stuff, because it's all tied in, and what the Word of God says about it. And I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about your journey. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Once again, thank you. And tell us about you. Where are you from? Let's start with that. Where are you from? Your background, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. So born January 12th, 1963. So I am 61 years old.
What? No. Hold on. Okay, hold on. No, I thought you were at least my age or maybe a little younger. I'm 76. Brother, God bless you, man. You take good care of yourself.
Likewise, brother. Likewise,
you take good care of yourself. So, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, thank you. You can interrupt me anytime, brother.
So God bless, man.
Born in Chicago, and I'm the youngest of four boys. And I will tell you right now, brother, I adore my three brothers. They are 6, 9, and 11 years older than I. Tom, Jim, and so Tom is the next, and then Jim, and then John. So lived there until I was just 3. Don't have a lot of memories. And then we moved to the East Coast. We moved to Silver Spring, which is right outside of Washington, D.C. And just a great place to grow up. And And unfortunately, my father was a smoker. And added to that was my father suffered from horrific, terrible, debilitating depression. Just and so the combination, and you know so well, the combination of those two things, he unfortunately passed away when he was just 42 years old. And and I mention that for a variety of reasons, because down the line, I was in this direct, just in this lane for a genetic influence of this disease, unfortunately. Um, but then also in terms of family dynamics, really at that point, my eldest brother, who's 11 years older than I, he really stepped in as my dad. And to this day, he's 72 and I'm 61. He still remains really, he's more my father. He's my guy. Did 42 years in our amazing army, enlisted and ultimately pinned on 2 stars as a 2-star general. And he's just, brother, he's just, and I'll just, he's incredible. So I have these, so grew up, my beloved mother, Suzanne, after my father died, she went to college, became a nurse, remarried to my bonus dad, Richard, and he had 9 children, believe it or not. So
Wow.
I actually grew up as the 12th of 13. And it was a very middle class growing up. My bonus dad, like everybody's bonus dad or everybody's dad, everybody worked for the government. You know, you lived outside of Washington, D.C. I grew up in the 70s. And it was good. And then my middle 2 brothers, Jim and Tom, I didn't know them as well. And so after I had done some time in college, I decided to go west because they had moved to California, Northern California in Sacramento. And I did that in right about 1990 and have lived in Northern California ever since. So in terms of professions, when I got out of college, I got into, and you'll appreciate this, I was in procurement. I was a contracting officer. So worked for the federal government, then worked for the state government when I came out to California, and then got into real estate finance. Was a loan officer for many, many years, and then met my first wife, who thank God is still one of my closest friends, even though we're not married anymore.
Oh man, I love to hear that. That's so important. That's so cool.
Just adore
Very
this.
cool.
I tell her I love her all the time, and
Very
she does
cool.
too. And
Very cool.
and Dee lives in Texas, by the way. I just realized. So,
oh, she lives in Texas?
Yeah. So we met. She was working for a mortgage banking entity, and so we met and then got married, and then ultimately we moved to not really a suburb, but kind of a semi-rural area outside of Sacramento, a little town called Penryn, and we had 2.5 acres, and we had this amazing house. And we got into animal rescue. I was still doing work in the loan industry. And ultimately, brother, because of Deanna and her mama bear heart, we ended up operating a nationally, if not internationally, recognized animal sanctuary. And the sanctuary was called A Chance for Bliss, named after the very first 2 dogs that we rescued, Chance and Bliss, 2 Boston Terriers. And that started this trend in which we only took animals that nobody wanted. For an animal to come to our sanctuary, they had to be old, they had to be sick, they had to be tortured, they had to be abused, they had to be blind, they had to be deaf, they had to be missing limbs, they had to be dying. So we took the unwanted. And so we did no adoptions. And animals stayed until, as we like to say, they made their transition. And on June 2nd, 2010, we were the half page cover story in the life section of USA Today.
Wow.
And yet 14 months later, I would be standing, as I like to say, on a dark spot on a tall, tall bridge, one heavy thought away from killing myself. That's just it. And in the talks that I give, which I wanted, it's about saying thank you to the people in my life. Thank you to the you in my life. It's about how people have helped me to make this journey, as I like to say, from mental hellness to mental wellness, like you know. And And people, it was a police officer. Interestingly, tomorrow I'm going to give a talk to police officers, which I do pretty regularly and love doing that. It was an officer who, as I'm like hanging on this 730-foot tall bridge, he didn't make contact with me at all. He created connection.
Wow.
And my belief, my passionate belief is connection creates hope, and hope saves lives. So I'm taking off a bridge to an emergency room. Now I'm going to go spend 15 days in a lockdown psych ward. An incredible experience. Nothing but positive. It was, and it's exactly where I needed to be. But when people found out where I was and why, brother, they were like, what? So it's like, that's impossible. So my middle name is Woods. My family calls me Woody. So people would, call Dean like, Woody was going to kill himself? Woody thought he was useless and worthless and stupid and pitiful and grotesque and that the world would be better off without him? Like, wait, you can't be talking about the same guy. That's impossible. Because he's the guy who's out there picking up manure every day, keeping the pastures clean and taking in dying animals and all this. Like, how could he feel that way? And I said, well, it wasn't a feeling, it was a belief. And a belief either frees us or traps us. Belief. And I love quotations. I'm like crazy. My beloved now, Summer, she says, honey, sometimes I think you have a little too many quotes, but they're so good. Yeah. So there's the famous chef, David Chang. And Chef Chang has lived with bipolar, and he has this incredible quote, brother. He says, when you're depressed, you're convinced that everything you think is true. And I'm like,
oh. Wow.
So I'm like, Chef, that's like, oh, brother. Yes, that's exactly right.
Wow, that's deep and that's
so
true.
When you're depressed,
if you pay attention to what,
if
you pay attention to what a depressed person is going through and what they're thinking, what are you talking about? What you do have a lot to offer. In your thoughts, you're probably thinking, I have nothing to offer. Exactly. That may have been that was your truth. Exactly. Wow, I never heard that quote, and that quote's amazing.
Yeah, when you're depressed, you're convinced that everything you think is true. It's like, wow. Sometimes people could say some things that are just like, man. And and I think it's important at this point, brother, to help people to understand. And I think people have an earnest desire, the souls who don't suffer from this, and thank God they don't, is to understand, what I tell people, like, what does it feel like? And the first thing you need to understand is, well, what it's not. And you know who taught me this? A second grader. Because I get to work with kids. I know, check this out. Out of the mouths of babes. Check this out. So I'm working with a group of second graders, and I have this intuitive sense, don't know where it came from, to ask this question. I said, hey, because the kids are going to know I'm going to talk about mental health, but I'm not going to go to the same level that I'm going to talk to an eighth grader, but second grader still. I said, hey, do you guys, is there a difference between sadness and depression? And the kids looked at me like I was an idiot. They're like, of course there's a difference. I'm like, oh man, I tell you what, you wouldn't get that answer from adults. I said, okay, well, who here wants to tell me what's the difference between sadness and depression? Little boy in the front row. Call on me. I said, all right, my man, tell me what's the difference? He said, it's simple. When you're sad, you know why. But when you're depressed, you don't.
This is a second grader.
A second grader. I'm like, wow. Like, yes, that's exactly right. You don't know why. It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. And I think that we just have to, we have to just accept that. Suicide and mental illness. I mean, we can talk about the science and all of that, whatever. It just doesn't make any sense. But if we tell our stories, what's our individual experiences, I think then what we can do is we can get to a place of understanding. And if we can understand it, then that gives us some access maybe to respond in different ways. But, so it's, if but I got to go back and say, because I asked the question, I was like, what happened? Like, what happened to Woody? And it was really, bro, I was at the crossroads, bad crossroads. One was genetics, okay? So, and the other thing I need to add is my grandfather, who I never met, had killed himself. So here we got grandfather, and then my beloved father, James Hamilton Bartley, everybody called him Ham. So, but John, Jim, Tom, my beloved brothers, they have no depression at all, no mental illness at all.
Wow.
What happened to Woody? Well, Woody, as a 12-year-old, is a new scout, having gone through Cub Scouts and then Weeblos, and now was new into Boy Scouts because, of course, he wanted to be an Eagle Scout like everybody does. Early on, Woody was raped on repeat occasions.
Oh, David, I'm so sorry, man.
By a thing. A human being wouldn't do that. And every time this monster did these things to me, he would, before he would let me go, brother, he would say, David, don't forget. What happened was an initiation, and all the boys go through it, but we never talk about it. And so I can tell you, I know when my depression started. I know when thoughts of killing myself started. And I was 12, and it's been 50 years.
If adults knew what the damage they do to kids, man, if they only knew the damage they do to a child and what it does for them for years to come, David, I'm so sorry you went through that, man.
No, thank you, brother. And I'll share something at the end. It's there are things that we can do for each other, like being on the show with you. I feel like we've known each other for years.
Yeah.
There are ways that we can express and demonstrate support that can do incredible things. But so I'm taken off the bridge, and people have like, oh my God. And then that started this journey, this from hellness to wellness. And it's been about, I am so incredibly blessed. There is not an area in my life that there's not at least one extraordinary human being. There's no part, I don't have a deficit of relationship. That doesn't exist. I'm really, 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 really fortunate for that. I'm still incredibly close with my former bride.
Mm-hmm.
I was in relationship with another woman before I met my beloved now, Summer. Her name is Carrie. We were literally on a Zoom just like 2 hours ago. My beloved is incredible. I've never been a dad. Tina and I never had kids. Carrie has 3 daughters, and I became very close with them. Summer, my beloved, has 3 children, and she's 20 years younger. And so my kids are 19, 16, and 13, and I'm learning how to be a dad. And it's interesting because I've had such great examples of men, not just my brothers, my best friend's dad, Barry, across the street, just watching my bonus dad. My other friend David's his dad. I had all these examples of men who were just good human beings. So I'm just trying to replicate what they did for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to live up to the example of my 3 brothers, and to try to do that. And in the work that I do, it's to highlight, I know systems, and you work in a system, and I know systems aren't perfect, but I think we don't, it's interesting. I'm really an optimist, even though I'm a guy who lives with depression. Kind of interesting. And I'm always looking, I say always, most of the time for the bright side, and trying to highlight things. And what I've been taught over the years is to put my self-care on a pedestal. God's first, of course.
Amen.
But then it's body, mind, and spirit. So diet, sleep, exercise, time outside, 4 medications, take every night. When we're done, I'll have dinner, take my meds. I have 2 amazing psychiatrists. I have a support group. It's also we also do Bible study there.
I love it.
And I get to do this work, and then and do outreach. But it's interesting. I'm very compliant. So in other words, I'm not. There are brothers out there who get into a tough place depression-wise, and they start on medication, and then they feel better, and bless their hearts, they stop taking the meds. I never do that. And I mention this to say that at the end of last year, I fell into the worst depression of my life. It was just horrific. And to this day, almost 9 months later, I still don't know what happened, because I was doing everything.
Could you on medication? And
I was on medication and doing my counseling, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I call my eldest brother, who's really my dad, John, and Summer, my beloved. They're my 2 North Stars. They're my guiding lights. And they worked with my doctors and my other family members. I didn't know any of this was going on. I'm just basically, I don't remember this, but what Summer told me was every day I would wake up and say, please let me die today. And so I was in a terrible place, awful. And so what they did is they got me into ECT, or electroconvulsive therapy, or shock therapy. And I can tell you, brother, 34 sessions later, changed my life.
Okay, that's interesting. I have somebody in my life. I'm not at liberty to say who it is.
Sure.
I should have asked if it was okay for me to mention who it is, but and it's the reason why this is so important.
Right.
But it's a person very close to me. I don't suffer from depression, and they did ECT, and it was the worst thing that could ever happen to them.
Really, I am so sorry.
Yes, because ECT. I don't know if you suffer from with ECT. Did you have any memory issues for a while?
For a little bit, but
okay.
per my doctor's promise, she said after 3 months it'll come back, and she was 100% right.
Okay, 4 years later, you're still suffering from memory loss, concentration issues.
Wow,
and it's gotten worse.
It being depression.
Not the depression. They're on medication.
No, but the memory and the concentration issues have gotten worse.
Yeah,
wow. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
The concentration, the memory. We'll be talking, and this person. What were we talking about? So, and wow. It's a little concerned, but the thankfully, they're seeing doctors. They're seeing this person has a support group, has the psychiatrist,
right.
Psychologist,
right,
PCP, and the psychiatrist referred this person to a neurologist.
Okay.
So because of the memory loss, and it's gotten worse, and so ECT to me, I'm not saying I want to be very careful because I know ECT works for some people.
Yeah.
But ECT was the worst thing for this person.
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
How many sessions did this person go through?
It was a bunch, but since it was getting worse, I suggested that they stopped.
Right.
Because depression was only, the anxiety was getting worse and the depression was getting worse because of the ECT.
No, I get it. No, brother. And for me, it's been the exact opposite.
I'm glad it worked for you. I'm so happy it worked for you.
Yeah,
Very happy it works for you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the difference has been. I mean, I've done a lot of different therapies over the last 50 years, or I mean, especially the last 13. And it's interesting. I had forgotten how bad of a place I was in. And so this was about a month ago. I was traveling from Dayton, Ohio to New Orleans. I had spoke at a conference, and I was going to speak at another conference. And so I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and had like 2 hours to just like, what am I going to do? So I pulled out my phone and I thought, man, let me get rid of some of these apps. And then I came to the Note app. I'm like, I'm going to get rid of it. And like, well, let me look at it. So this is what I wrote at the beginning of the year, which I had no memory of writing this. Walking around in Chicago O'Hare, completely void of hope. There's hell, and then there's hopelessness. Catatonic, whisper of a voice, want of food. Open the door and jump out. Suicide making perfect sense. Shower was a workout. Slow thinking. Memory issues. It's all about the intensity of my emotions. My depression is like a cancer. The reality how long I've suffered from this. I choose to stay for my family. Just open the door of the car and fall out into the traffic. If I loved myself, I would do this. And here, the end of August, the comparison it's night and day. It's, I still have a little bit, I call them little memory voids, but they're incredibly small. So it's been, for me, it's been a life, but I've done 34 sessions, and I still go. I have another one. I still go once a month
to do ECTs.
Yep. I go again in like 8 days. So it's worked for me.
Perfect. That's great. I mean, I'm glad it has. I'm glad it has.
And I'm so sorry that
no.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that the soul in your life that has suffered so greatly.
It was a rarity because every time this person will go to the doctor and they will say this, you go, what? This is happening? Really? Yeah. But it's a rarity because it was told you're gonna have very minimal memory loss, but within a few months it'll be good. No, it got worse and worse and worse. 4 years later, not that this person forgets everything, remembers things, but there are things that this person forgets. And there are times where there are people that she doesn't remember. There are names there are names that is forgotten, or like I said, concentration can sometimes be an issue too. But praise God, this person has a great relationship with God, loves the Lord.
That's a beautiful thing.
Loves family, and this person is not alone, and loves life, takes medication as needed, compliant, like what you said, because very important.
It is.
But yeah. But like I said, I'm glad it's working. It's been working for you. So, but one thing that I loved about how you call it, for mental hellness, because if people understand, and let me tell you something, I was one that I never understood because I didn't go through. That's one thing. It's very important to, if you don't understand, if you don't know what the person's going through, you're not going to get it. But what's very important to have compassion.
Yes.
Compassion.
Yeah.
You know, have a lots of compassion for somebody that's dealing through is going through depression. Your bad day is not going to be the same thing as mine. You might not deal with a bad day the same way as me. That's okay.
Yeah.
And I've told people, and whoever does suffer from depression, it's okay. We all have bad days, and you're not going to deal with the bad day the same way as me, and it's okay. You know, you just people need to know they're not alone.
Yeah. Because I think, well, my platform in terms, and I don't like to use the word solution. I just like to use that what I offer is just a different response or an additional response. So because people say, the 4 questions that my base speech is what I call the why of suicide and the how of hope. So it answers 4 questions. 1, what happened? 2, what does it feel like? Okay. 3, how do you become well? Okay. And then 4, is there anything we can do in regards to suicide? And I said, I think there is. And that's the platform. That's connection creates hope, and hope saves lives. But because of who I was raised by, everything's got to be tangible. In other words, you can't just throw out the word connection and not define it. And right now, connection's a buzzword, and it's a great word. And we all have our own opinions and beliefs and definitions of it. But if you're going to be, for me, I feel if I'm going to be responsible as a speaker in front of a group or here on your amazing podcast, like I got to use a definition. And the great Brene Brown's is perfect. She says, I define connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and they derive strength and sustenance from the relationship. Like, hallelujah. Yes, that's exactly right. So, and in that space, brother, how can you feel anything but hope? You feel seen, heard, and valued? When you can give and receive and no one's judging you, even if you're different? When you derive strength and sustenance, you're fed because of the relationship that you're in? There's nothing else that exists except hope in that space.
Amen.
But what is hope? So out of the dictionary, literally Cambridge Dictionary, definition is the feeling. I love that. The feeling that what is wanted can be had. Like, I want my pain to end. I want my debt to be gone. I want my relationship to be better. I want when we're hopeful, we feel that what we want we can attain it. It's achievable. It's within our grasp. And so my assertion is that as somebody who's been suicidal for decades, when I'm in the space of hope, I'm safe. I'm not going to kill myself when I feel hopeful. I'm not. I did a what the heck are they called? Speech. and I got some great questions afterwards. And they said, well, really enjoyed what you said, but what about when someone says, well, if I kill myself, I hope my pain will end. Well, it's a thing. But see, you don't hope when you're in pain, you don't hope your pain will end. You want your pain. And if you, again, because I'm all about definitions, if you go back, if you define what is the dictionary, Cambridge Dictionary, it's want is all about a need. Okay. So you don't hope your pain will end. You want your pain. What you hope for is something entirely different. Hope is all about a positive expectation. So then they say, okay, if people are tracking with me, then the question comes up, well, okay, well, you can't just hope. You can't just, just blink and hope come and hope that hope is there. I said, no, you're exactly right. But what I would tell you is you can create because I can teach you a way to create connection with anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. Because you create that connection, you therefore can create hope anytime you want. You can do it anytime you want. It's totally up to you. And I teach three things. I teach recognition, understanding, and expression. And I'll do a short version of it is I tell people, become great remembering people's names. Like, be great with their name. We know what it's like when someone remembers our name and we have no expectation. Like that person you see every day, but maybe you never called them by their name. Try this. Try calling them by their name and see what happens. Next time you go out to dinner, in that hour or hour and a half that you're in that relationship with that server, from the very first time that they come to your table to the very last time, every time, use their name. Call them by their name. And you tell me what happens. And what I would tell you what happens is it will be the development, because of you have created the space where they feel seen, heard, and valued. They're not just a server, they're a human being.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just astonishing. And then in understanding what I would ask all of your listeners to do from this very moment, for the rest of eternity, never again ask a why question. Never. Ask a what question. Because why requires justification. Why'd you do that? What invites sharing? What inspired you to do that? Totally different. If you want to get to the foundation of like what's going on, and sharing is oftentimes the great, I can't think of her name right off the top of my head, has this quote that said, there's no greater agony than bearing the weight of an untold story. So you know how many souls are out there, brother, carrying this story that they've never had the chance to share. Remember, go back to the definition. Share without judgment, back and forth. Derive strength and sustenance from the relationship. We know in our gathering on Sunday, what happens, what you tell me, what happens when two or more are gathered?
God is there.
Boom. That's it. That's all it requires.
But you like, sorry, David, but I think the problem with, and this is the problem, and this happens at church too.
No,
unfortunately, you know what? I can't share what I'm going through because I'm gonna be judged, and that is one of my problems with a lot of churches. That's one of my problems, and that's one of the reasons I've dedicated a couple of episodes and a couple of my teachings on when I share the Bible, not teachings, when I share the Bible in my other channel. It's been about that. Pastors, leaders at the church, be very careful not to criticize somebody that comes to you when they need to speak to you about the depression, about what they're going through. And for those of you out there, if you are going through this and you feel you're in the church where you're going to be judged, find yourself another church.
Amen. Absolutely.
You're in the wrong church.
Yes, quickly do it.
You're in the wrong church. But I think that's one of the reasons why people don't share, is because I'm going to be judged.
Right. Exactly. I agree with you, brother. 100%.
And I know that because the person I told you about, I know this.
Right. No, I
fear
agree.
Or judgment. What are they going to think about me?
Yeah. And it is.
Bothers me.
And I think so for us, our responsibility is to create that space that a person feels safe to share. You know, and there's a Rachel Naomi Remen is an amazing doctor, and because people will come to me and say, well, I don't know what to do to help. I say, you know what? One of the things that you could do, which would be incredibly helpful, is two things. One, ask the person who's suffering, what can I do to support you? Don't even use the word help. Because help is, that puts like I don't know, but support is such a beautiful word. What can I do to support you? And you might be surprised what they say. And oftentimes it is like, brother, as you just said, the ability to share their story, and all that requires you to do is listen. And you know what our listening does? And Dr. Remen says our listening creates a sanctuary for the homeless parts in another person. I'm like, whoo, yes, it does. A single sharing of a story that you've never told, that may be the thing that you need to do. You know, maybe there's some other follow-up stuff in it, or maybe not. I don't know. But how much, yeah. So, and I think the initial way that we create the space starts with how we ask the question. Don't ask why. Why is just, well, it just doesn't, I don't like it. I understand, but you can always transform a why question into a what question. You can always do it. What is so neutral? It doesn't get people on edge. Whereas a why, because again, why is all about justify. Like, you've got to justify what you did, what you said, what you believe, what you think, what you feel, what you eat, what you do,
and why you feel the way you feel.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
opposed to,
I never thought about that, but that makes total sense.
as
That
opposed
does
to,
make sense.
yeah, well, like what? What is so great? It's just like, and so that a short version I use in my talks, I use a big collection of animal stories to talk about mental illness and mental health. And I like to divide the two. What the person in your life and me, what we have suffered from, that's mental illness. That's not mental health. That's mental illness. Just call it what it is. What we're yearning for is mental health. Two different things. I hate when people just say, "Oh, I'm struggling with," and just call it what it is. It's an illness. And I think when we say it's an illness, it will give some to what your point earlier, brother, which I love, is about compassion. We tend to be, as human beings, more compassionate when we know somebody is ill. So a guy walks in, and this is not fictional, it's nonfiction, it's actually happened. So a man had walked into an animal shelter, not a sanctuary, very old, and he had this old basset hound. And he goes up to the shelter worker and he said, "Ma'am, I was out on my daily walk, and I came across this dog." And he said, "I promise you, I checked him from head to toe. There's no ID. And I didn't know what to do, so I put him in my car and I brought him here." And the shelter worker was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." It's like most people would have just ignored the dog. So she said, looks at the dog and says, I mean, he's old, and they didn't microchip back then, but who knows, maybe we'll get lucky. So she said, "I'm going to take him in the back and scan him for a microchip. Do you mind, just in the case that maybe we have to follow up with you, just give us your name and number and where you found the dog on this piece of paper." So gives a piece of paper to the man. He fills out the information. Shelter worker takes the dog in the back and then comes back and says, "Can't believe it. He's microchipped." He says, "You saved his life." And the man was teary, and she was teary, and he's getting ready to leave. And just then she looks at the piece of paper and notices that the information on the piece of paper is the information that matches on the microchip. So this was his dog. Now, I'm a guy, thanks to my former bride, had the honor and the privilege to take care of old dying animals. I'd open up a can of Texas whoop ass, the likes of which, like, are you? I mean, I'd have lost it. I'd be like, "Why are you so cruel?" But you thank God, I wasn't there, because you know what, brother? This woman, seeing something that made no sense. You know the question she asked him? She said, "Sir, what happened?" And in that moment, he burst into tears. And he said, when he could finally just said, "This is Joshua. I've had Joshua for all of his 16 years. There is nothing more important to me than my dog. But I'm dying. and I'm being forced into a medical facility, and I offered to pay, and I begged, and I pleaded, and I was willing to do anything if they would let me take Joshua, and they kept saying no, no, no. And he said, ma'am, I'm so sorry, but I was afraid if I told you the truth that you would put Joshua to sleep.
Oh, man.
Because nobody is going to want to adopt my dog. And because of the question, because of how she asked the question, she heard the story. It wasn't justification. It was sharing. And she said, sir, there's a sanctuary down the hill. And they take in old dogs like Joshua. How about we pick up the phone and see if they have room for him? And of course, we did. And I'll never forget the day that this beautiful soul, this wonderful man, entrusted me with his beloved pup. And he said, please take care of Joshua. And I said, I promise. I will. That's the power of question and how we ask a question to create the space for one brother or sister to share with us what's so.
Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah. You just taught me something. I hope people, whoever is going to watch this episode, will learn that question, what? And you said it, it's how you ask it. Even asking what.
Right.
Because what happened? Or what happened? You know, that opens, you said it opens up the opportunity for the person to share.
Exactly.
Not defend themselves, but share.
Share. Exactly.
Wow. David, thank you for that. Thank you for that. That's a good lesson.
It's and so when we recognize people, how are we doing? I said, just become great with names. And then when we see things that we don't understand, to get to understanding, there's a direct path to understanding. You know what it begins with, brother? It's curiosity. Curiosity leads to understanding. And curiosity is beautiful. There's no negativity in curiosity. My God, it's wonderful. Curiosity. And then the last is expression. And it's about letting people in our lives know how we feel. And it could be, I love you, I care about you, I need you, I messed up, I'm sorry. So my dad, my brother, so he lives with his beloved bride of 48 years in Illinois. And so he's a couple hours ahead of me time-wise. So you know how my day starts? Every day on this thing right here is a text from him. Every day. I'll read you today's. It says, well, another hot day in Illinois, workout and then chores for me. Final prep for your presentation to the police and trying to get an appointment with your orthopedic surgeon because I need it. And then there's always a inspirational quote. To enter the realm of real magic, you will have to suspend all your thoughts of limitation and become a spiritual being first, a being who has no limitation in your inner domain where boundaries are non-existent. Love you. That was today's. Wow. Every day. It is just that little thing, but he never misses. He's in retirement. He loves to scuba dive, and he's been out of the country. And he recently had a medical procedure on his ankle. Doesn't matter. Those days, the text still comes. They still come. And it's always formatted the same. What he's doing, his guidance for me, and then a motivational quote. And then most every night we end the day, he calls me on the phone.
Wow.
See, and so he's taught me. And so I have a friend whose son got into a place of really bad depression. And I love this young man just so much. I just adore him. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know. And so we talked on the phone, and I asked him, I said, bro, what can I do to support you? And he said, just stay in touch. I said, okay. So he's a texter. And so I'll just, first couple of months, it was just text, find stuff on the internet that was positive and this and that. But was every day. And sometimes it would be like 2-3 days before he would respond. I'm like, it's okay. I'm not looking at that. My job is not about responding. It's about I want to follow what my brother does for me. I just want to do the same thing. So about a month ago, sends me a note. And he said, hey, I just want to let you know, I turned the corner. Thanks for reminding me who I am.
Wow.
Like, all I did was just, thanks for reminding me who I am. Like, and I say this, and it's not about me. God, oh, dear Lord, no. It's like, this is what we can do. Like, I just get so crazy because it's so simple. But it requires consistency. And I look at my beloved brother every day because he loves me, And I get emotional because I think we're on the cusp. I do. I think we are. There's some amazing people. There's 2 women that I know who both lost sons to suicide, and somehow they've turned, I can't even fathom a tragedy of that magnitude into a crusade. And those 2 ladies are changing the world.
Wow.
Yeah. And and there's so many others, just like you. Look what you're doing. You have no idea, brother, all the lives that you changed and impacted and saved because of who you are. That's what you do. You're doing God's work. You are a good and faithful servant.
Thank you. I mean, if we could reach one person,
right?
I always say it. When I have a podcast like this, when I have an episode like this, or something similar, if we reach one person, we did our job.
Yep.
One person.
Yeah.
If we reach one person, and it's not, again, like you said it perfectly a few moments ago. It's not you. It's not me. It's God.
Yeah, absolutely.
God, to Him the glory. We just have, hey, and there's a reason why He made you to go through what you went through.
Yeah.
There's a reason why. He sent that cop to pull you off of that bridge.
Yeah.
He's not done with you. He's
No.
not done with you. He's going to use you, and he's using you, obviously. He's
Yeah.
definitely using you in a huge scale and in a huge platform. You can only imagine how many people you've saved, you helped save, and how many people you're reaching. You are an inspiration, just like the person in my life. That person, Jesus is my hero. But so is this person.
No, I get it. Those are 2 good heroes.
And this person will say, "I'm not a hero. I'm so the coward or whatever." I go, no. You are stronger than what you think you are.
Please hug that soul for me.
Absolutely.
Please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, uh, so I was gonna go somewhere. I was gonna ask you a question, and but before we move on, yeah, just again, if anybody out there suffering from depression, there's always help. And I'm going to put the information. The suicide hotline will be there. It's going to be in the description. Uh, you can reach me directly. Also, you can hit me up, DM me. David,
Please, you put all my please,
I
put all
know.
my personal information. Yes, please call me. No one ever calls.
We're here.
Yes,
And there's a reason why we do this. You're not alone. You're not alone. Nobody's going to judge you. We're not going to judge you.
No.
Who are we to judge? Who am I to judge?
No.
You know,
exactly.
who am I to judge? God loves you. God loves you. Now, how often do you go out and speak? How often do you and how long are your how long is your conference or your presentation, or I don't know what to call it. What do you call
it? Presentations, right? It's usually right about an hour is what
okay.
I do. Sometimes if I get into it, I distinguish between, say, a talk is right about an hour, and a workshop will be more like 90 minutes because that's a little more interactive. The talk is
Q&As and all that stuff.
Exactly. So I average. Let me see what did I do. So I've given, and I count them as anytime I give like a talk or a workshop, that's one. So this month I will have done, because I'm doing one tomorrow, I will have done 7.
Wow.
Some months it can be more, some months it can be less. 2 of those were churches in which I preached. So there's a Presbyterian church I've done a lot of work with, and they're in between pastors. So I'm not a pastor, I am a preacher. I have the easy job, come in and just tell a story. So, and I love this. I really know this church well. So what was my sermon last week? Oh, patience is a virtue. Man, it was good. Not good because it was because I was prepping, and I had given the title like a month or 2 or whatever before, and I was prepping. I'm like, what the heck did I do? Like the definition of virtue. The definition of patience was like, oh my god. So anyway, I love.
Is it online? Is that teaching online?
What?
Is that preaching online?
It might be. Brother, I'll check.
Send me the name. Send it to me, or send me the name of the church, and I'll look it up.
Yeah. So that, and then that was patience is a virtue, and the sermon before that was how to save a life by sitting down, which was a lot of fun. That's a fun. That's yeah. So anyway, and it's all stories, quotes, and definitions. That's it. So yeah. So I'm speaking tomorrow to police officers, which I'm really excited about, and then next month I'm doing a bunch of work with kids, which will be really cool. Do a lot with the military, which is a great way for me to honor my brother.
And I love the military. I love police officers.
I do too.
And we are in a state right now where I don't want to get political. We're not going to get political, but where police officers are not being respected.
You're exactly right.
Pisses me off.
Yeah. No, I love police officers.
Pisses me off. We need to get back to where cops and our heroes, which are cops, not saying that the firefighters and EMTs are not heroes. They are, but we're talking about cops and the military.
Yep.
Where they they deserve our respect, and for us to honor them.
Yep.
Not on Memorial Day, not on Veterans Day, every single year. We need to honor them and thank them when we see them. Thank you when we see them.
Brother, I could not agree with you more.
Because I know I've heard of stories where cops, and I'm glad you're doing this, that you're going to go speak to them tomorrow. Okay, I know some cops have suffered from suicide or from
Oh, so
depression.
terrible. Oh my God.
Military,
Oh
the
my gosh.
military come from the war, and you think that, oh, well, no, Lord knows what they went through. Lord knows how many of them in
Yeah.
arms died in front of them, and they suffer from, from depression. And so, uh, a question I have for you is, what is one of the worst things a person can do if they're feeling depressed, or they're feeling anxious, or or they're not having a good day? They're not having a good day. You said it. You said it yourself. About a year ago, you're doing everything you need to do.
Yeah.
But you have those days. You're gonna have those days. I have bad days.
Sure.
I have my days where I have a bad. But in your case, again, I've said it. Your bad day is not the same as mine.
Right.
My bad day is, hey, you know what? Your bad day might be you having a low. What's one of the worst thing a person can do when they're in that state?
I think it's two things.
Okay.
One is to isolate, because you are not your best friend in that moment.
Right.
So just being by yourself. There's a difference between, brother, when you say, okay, I need some me time, and isolating. It may look the same, but it's very, very different, because you got to look at what's the motivation.
Mhm.
So the motivation underneath isolation is the monsters, what I call depression, is saying no one understands, no one wants to be with you, all that stuff. Remember, when you're depressed, you're convinced that everything you think is true. So I think the first thing that my brothers and sisters like me out there, like the soul like you in your life, brother, the first worst thing we can do is to isolate. The second thing is to beat ourselves up, to show no grace, to have no patience, to be nothing but just constantly berating and belittling and annihilating ourselves. Those two things will bring you to the brink. You don't need anything else.
The enemy feeds on that also.
Exactly.
But we got to remember, we believe in God,
Right.
but just like we have Jesus, the devil and the enemy and his forces of evil are there to attack you, to whisper in your ear,
Exactly. Yeah.
hey,
No.
hey, you're not worth it. Don't talk to, nobody's going to understand you.
Right. And that line right there. Yeah. No one's going to understand you. Or equal to that would be no one wants to hear it.
Yeah. So,
And let me just say again to my brothers and sisters out there, I'm not. Please don't hear what I'm not saying, and I'm not. It is incredibly difficult to not isolate. It's incredibly difficult to not beat yourself up. But please understand. I understand. But because right now I'm doing good. I'm just saying those, in answer to your question, those are the two worst things. You don't need anything else to put you into a pit of hell.
yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah. Um, uh, Again, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of your ex-wife, that you guys have stayed friends, and you guys,
Oh, yes. She's amazing.
and not just friends. I'm from the way it sounds, you guys are family.
Oh,
You guys are family.
absolutely. Oh my gosh, no,
That's
yes. And she's also with my beloved now.
that's
Oh
beautiful.
yeah. No,
That's,
and just no, Deanna's an amazing person.
how does your wife now? How when you have your moments where you're down and you're depressed and you're down, how does your wife handle it? And this is for and this question is to answer for this is a question for those who may be watching this episode and are not dealing with depression, but they have somebody in their life who.
Right.
So what's the best thing ask the question, what else how does she handle?
Well, it's really, I mean, I know it breaks her heart
Of course.
because she doesn't want to see her beloved suffer. And Summer will ask me, sweetheart, what can I do to support you? And maybe offer. Sometimes you just don't know. Well, I don't know. And people say, well, of course you know. Well, no, I don't. So then Summer will offer some suggestions. Well, hey, babe, how about we do this? Or maybe, this, or do this, or this. So she creates this space. And then if I still have not responded or given any kind of answer, she'll give me space, but make sure that I'm not isolated. And it's different. And my kids are incredible because they obviously know what I do. They know my story. They they're incredible. So they at different times, if I'm having in a really tough spot, they'll text me, they'll write me a note. They're incredible. So
I love that.
Yeah, they follow their mom's lead. They really do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
For speaking engagements, just in case anybody wants to
Please.
what do you charge? What are your fees?
Sure.
What do you what all that stuff? What
I keep it really reasonable because it's so for me. So I charge $2,500. But what I ask organizations, either businesses or schools or the military is really good at this. Others not so much. Is I say, look, that price, if you want me just to give one speech, fine, but that's a price for an entire day. So it doesn't, in other words, I'm not going to charge you more if I do, say, 3 or 4 talks as opposed to one. Like it's a whole day. So like I'm doing a middle school in 2 weeks. I'm going to do 6 talks. I'm going to talk to every single 7th and 8th grader in that school. So I'm going to do 6 talks, and it's the same price. So, I mean, most speakers are probably double or triple what I charge, but I want to make it reasonable. And the only additional cost would be, depending on where you're at, would just be whatever the travel expense is to get there. But I'm shocked at how reasonable airfare is. Like it's incredible to me. I'm like, wow. Like I quoted to go to South Carolina, and the airfare was less than the hotel is. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how could the airfare be less? Like,
I don't even know how much hotel is. I don't do hotels anymore. I do Airbnbs. I've been doing Airbnbs for many years now. Hotels are ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was shocked. I was like, so anyway, yeah. So it's $2,500. And you have me for the entire day. So that could be, so if you're a business.
If it's a church, they have several services.
Not only that, then if it was a church, I would do several services, and then I would do a workshop after the service.
I love that.
I would spend the whole day. If it's a business, I would do, say, a presentation to the company, and then do a workshop, and then set up one-on-one sessions with people if you wanted to for the balance of the day. I want to be busy from, say 8 o'clock in the morning till 5, 6 in the afternoon. So most speakers don't do that, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But this is my passion. This is what I want to do. I want to share.
Yeah, that's good to know. Because it's something that will be good to. I'm going to talk to my pastor, to the. Because it'll be good to bring you.
Oh, I would love it. I'd spend the whole, and with them we do all the services, have some fun. I have a sermon called "What I Learned About Mental Health from Noah and the Ark."
We have several campuses.
Oh,
we have several. So we in our case it'll probably be a conference or something, but it's something I can talk to a couple of the campus pastors and see and so they can bring it to the co-pastors and see, because it'll be good. It'll be good to have you.
And I'll send you, brother, if I want, I'll send you links to my 2 TED Talks. They're fun. So
cool.
I'll send.
And you have a podcast, right?
No, I know. I don't have
You
one
don't have
myself.
a podcast? I thought I saw.
I've been on other podcasts.
No, but I thought I saw something, and that's probably what it was. Let me look it up. Let me look your page up real quick and see what this was. It says episode 64. I thought that was your episode. It's a new episode. It was on August 16th, which is my mother-in-law's birthday, by the way. That was my mother-in-law's birthday.
I love
She just turned 70. And it says episode 64, mental hellness to mental wellness and I thought that was your podcast.
No.
Damn, I gotta check that out. So that was somebody else's podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not nearly as good.
Okay. So no, okay. So send me all your information of where people could find you and all that stuff. All your links and all that stuff.
Yep.
I want to put that on the description on YouTube.
Okay. I'll send them.
Do you have a book? Do you have a book or anything? Have you any books that you could recommend?
Yes.
For the readers that like to read on this stuff.
No, there's a great book. The one that I would recommend, it's a book called Rethinking Suicide.
Wow.
So it's Dr. Craig Bryan. And one of the things that Dr. Bryan says is suicide prevention is not just about stopping people from killing themselves. It's also helping them to create reasons to live. Dr. Bryan it's an amazing book. Now I will warn you, there's different parts of it in which there's a ton of data. Like, whoo, man. But there's also a lot more. It is a really, I mean, I take it with me because I quote it a lot. Interesting. And here the data, I don't use data for the most part. That's just kind of not mine, but every once in a while I will. And I will with Dr. Bryan's work. They did a study, and what they measured was the relationship between a person's wish to live and their wish to die. And what they noticed was it only takes a small increase in a person's wish to live to prevent someone from taking their own life, as opposed to it requires a huge increase in a person's wish to die.
Wow.
So it's just everything, all Dr. Bryan's data, and he works at Ohio State, it all points to it. Really, what he advocates for is a different approach to suicide prevention. So
wow. Yeah.
Some people read it, it's controversial, and there's definitely some controversial parts, but I'm very drawn to it. And because his philosophy, it aligns with mine. And I like his line that suicide prevention is not just about stopping somebody from killing themselves. It's about helping them create a life worth living.
But why is it what part of it is controversial?
Well, one of the things he says early on is he says, really screening for suicide risk, he says it doesn't work. He said, and here's where he has the data to show. It's just like, look, it just doesn't work. It's not. We should be shifting to other things that he talks about, other, and it's really about, and we just have to pull it out. I have this thing highlighted so many times. It says, Rethinking Suicide, Why Prevention Fails and How We Can Do Better. And I love this thing that Dr. Bryan says at the end. Creating lives worth living requires the collective effort of many people working together and sharing a shared sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I have this thing, I may as well just highlighted the entire book because it's ridiculous. I had to kind of streamline it. Where's another one? This is the thing. When it comes to the tipping point between suicidal behavior and the absence of it, the wish to live seems to carry somewhat more weight than the wish to die.
What's the name of the book again?
So, brother, it is called Rethinking Suicide. If you just type in that, it'll come right up. and he's not super active on social media that I see. But I know
All
he's
right,
doing a lot. Oh, there you go.
I'm
There's another
yeah.
there's another
It's
quote.
down the bottom so people can see it.
There you go.
That's the end of the book. Yeah.
There's another quote that I use a lot. Dr. Drew Ramsey is a psychiatrist, and he's a psychiatrist. He's a professor at Columbia. He's also a farmer. He's really big into brain gut health and the relationship between what you eat and how it impacts your mental health. So Dr. Ramsey has this incredible quote, and here's what he says. Dr. Ramsey says, "Someone you see today is thinking about killing themselves. Your smile, your question, your love could save them. Trust me, they told me it did."
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, and that's a good point. A smile could go a long way. A smile could go a long way. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, what the young man wrote back to me after I had sent some texts over the course of a couple of months. Thanks for reminding me who I am. Like, could it really be that easy to positively contribute to somebody else's well-being and to support poor Dr. Brian, support their wish to live and maybe reduce their wish to die? And I think that's really, Dr. Brian talks a lot about that, but it's a great book. And so some people really right from the front, some people it's be controversial. It says why prevention fails. Oh man, okay, that's a rather bold statement. You better have something to back it up. And believe me, he does.
I would definitely check out that book.
I'd love to meet him one day. I'd love to meet Dr. Ramsey one day too. Yeah. Dr. Ramsey, if you want to follow Dr. Ramsey, he is a crazy man on Instagram. He is all over the place.
Dr. Ramsey.
Dr. Drew Ramsey, psychiatrist.
All right. Anything else that you would like to add? And again, and folks, that's another thing. You never know who is suffering. They can hide it perfectly.
Oh yes.
And I mentioned it before. Who knew that oh, I cannot believe my wife is gonna kill me just thinking that I forgot his name. The actor.
Robin Williams.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. To me, the greatest actor of all time.
Oh my gosh. Like of
who knew?
All people in the world. You're like, what? How could that be?
And then you got pastors.
No,
committing suicides. You never know who is. So you said perfectly. You hit the nail on the head. A smile can go a long way, and a nice gesture. Being nice, being kind, especially if you're a Christian. Not everybody's going to understand that, especially if you're a Christian. Act like a Christian.
That's exactly.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I'm human, and I can be a jerk. I have to watch myself at times. I have to remind myself. Do you see that? Was that a very Christian-like way? And my wife will have to remind me at times to keep me in check at times. Yo, babe, really, you were a little rough there. Oh, you're right, and I have to go back and apologize. But we have to try, because you never know who we're talking to. We never know if the wrong thing may set that person off, and so we got to be as gentle and as kind-hearted as possible with everybody we meet.
Yep, I agree, brother.
David, anything else you want to add before I let you go, brother?
No, man, this has been amazing. Thank you. I will send you all that stuff, and I hope I get to come to Texas and serve your community.
It'll be awesome, and I would love. It'll be nice to catch up again, and
please.
I would love to have you on again. I'm about to wrap up the season. I've been doing this for a year nonstop, and I'm about to wrap it up next month. So I would like to have you sometime in 2025.
Please.
But you and I will stay in touch, though.
Yes.
We will stay in touch.
Absolutely,
All right.
bro. I love you. You're the best.
Man, I love you too, man. You said it earlier. It feels like we've known each other for
I
a
know.
long time.
I know,
And,
right?
but it's amazing. But that's God, man. That's God.
Well
It's
said.
God. You said it. It's God.
I shouldn't be surprised. Why am I surprised?
That's the thing. I don't know. And look, we have the same haircut
I know. Just two handsome bald guys.
with the goatee.
Exactly.
Folks, again, make sure you share this with somebody. This is not because of me, but David is a guy who will help, and he's here to help. So make sure you hit that like button and share this episode with somebody. It might help save somebody's life. David, again, God bless you, man. God bless
Thank
your
you, brother.
family.
Thank you. They're the best.
Send my love to your wife, please.
I will.
All right, and man, thank you,
All right,
man.
brother.
God bless you. Love you, bro.
Love you too, bro.